Today, Turbo Steve is back from California, ready to pick up his tank. I looked it over, it's pretty much ready to go. I hope he decides to buff it out. I have so many parts here. I have a whole table full, actually I have 2 tables full of parts, and they're ready for, the first operation is to get everything cleaned and sanded. These parts are ready to buff, and what I'm trying to do here is what's called a leapfrogging restoration, where I can work on one part while one part is drying, the other part I'm buffing, and the other part I'm sanding and priming. And so what happens, I always have something to work on no matter what the weather is. And that proved to work well for us. We even snuck in painting Turbo Steve's tank. He'll be ready to go to the JAVITS show, and hope he does well and enjoys himself. Now, every one of the parts on this table is going to be treated just a little bit differently. Some parts, like this one, needs body work. Some parts need a thorough cleaning. Some parts need sanding of various grits. Some parts have damage that has to be cleaned up. This one has a lot of damage, in fact. We're going to be doing a lot of work on that part. So every one I'm going to treat a little bit differently, but I'm going to do them all with the same idea in mind. I want to leapfrog, so there's always something drying. While something's drying, I'm waiting for the next step, or doing Bondo work or whatever. And if I get all these parts all set and they're all drying and I still have time at the end of the day, I'll go take some more parts off the motorcycle. But this looks like I've bit off a good day's work. And in the past, I've had as many as 5 motorcycles down here, all taken apart at the same time, and those days are gone for us, unfortunately. I try to stick to having one project at a time. And Karen agrees. At this point in our life, we just want to have more time not doing motorcycle painting in the winter. Now, I had a very strange issue with the Valentine radar detector. After many years of good, reliable service, what had happened is the wire, the yellow wire on the end of this, I don't know if you can see that, there's 4 wires, the yellow one fractured. I put some tape on it. It worked for a couple of days and intermittently went bad again. The wire is bad. So what I did, I went and took this connector, and never realizing that these wires come 2 different ways. They come with one end of the wire this way, and they can both be the same, or what they call it twisted wire. The other end is the reverse. Now on a telephone, that doesn't matter at all. On a radar detector, what happens, you immediately blow the fuse, in which case it's a 2-amp fuse, and I didn't have any, so I had to get some. I'm still waiting for them to get here. And be aware, on a Valentine radar detector, I would say, to be safe, buy another wire from Valentine. And that's exactly what I did. But I'm still waiting, and so I won't ride a motorcycle without the radar detector for obvious reasons. So I guess 2 or 3 days from now I'll have that back in service. And while I have it apart, I charged my jumper for the winter. And these lithium-ion batteries don't really lose a lot of juice over the summer, so but for safety, for sure it's now charged. But the first thing is, we're in the holiday season. Karen and I are spending a lot of time every day decorating, and we decorate the whole house. We don't just put up a Christmas tree. And we have Miles coming over today. And this time of year, he usually likes to run our railroad, which is in the attic of the house. So we got a lot of stuff. We'll probably get a good visit with Turbo Steve today. A day, with every day being just a little bit different, it's exactly how I like it. But the first thing is, I've got to get out there, flip the battery chargers, make some coffee, feed the birds, and see how many leaves are in my pond. And then I can get my workday started. So you can tell it's the holiday season. The coffee's brewing, and look at it. No more old-fashioned cups. The family is officially in Christmas mode. And while that coffee's brewing, it's a good time to come out and flip the battery tenders. Every morning. It's like having chickens you have to feed. Like having a puppy you have. Still haven't seen Luciano's puppy. There's some puppies. It's funny how anything you want in life that you really enjoy, in the end it just turns out to be a lot of maintenance. Whether it's a pond or a motorcycle or a who the hell knows what. In the end, it's a lot of work. But would you ever trade it? I don't think so. I don't know. I always think I would never trade 1 second of my life for anybody else's. I have really enjoyed working on these old motorcycles. And probably when spring comes and this guy is all in his Bentley black, we're gonna look back at this video today. I'm looking at summer videos already. And then I always ask the obvious question, well, if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? I'd probably have a polo pony or something. Nah, I like this better. And as hard as I try to keep the pond clean all winter, you can see what the leaves always win. You're fighting a losing battle. I see the birds are in a festive holiday mood this morning too. Pretty soon they'll be putting up their Christmas tree. Of course, this time of year, everything we do is predicated on temperatures being above freezing, and it's going to be above freezing by lunchtime. So it looks in, and hopefully this afternoon get some of those parts painted. But again, we're subject to the weather. Now I have 11 separate parts that I took off the motorcycle the other day. Each one's going to be dealt with just a little bit differently based on a lot of stuff. The first one is, but before we do each one, a couple need Bondo. There's 2 or 3 need various other things. And by the way, I wanted to show this. This is one of the reasons. I wanted to do these first because these are going to get trim. And this was one of the nicest things that came from this whole thing is now I can pull, I have patterns for this, of course. Just pull this off. And that paper, by the way, was available at Michael's, the craft store Michael's. So it was not, it was like $1 a sheet or something. But now getting it off, you probably, if I wasn't going to sand this, I'd just use a hairdryer. But the biggest thing is, each one of these parts, this one doesn't look damaged, but it's got a lot of grease on it. This is stuff that came up from the chain, and it's always on the bottom of the seat, that part of it. So the thing I wanted to, and I always do this with anybody that's learning how to paint in my shop, and most of those people would be inclined, I think, and so would I, take a part like this and just wipe it with Prepsol and go paint it. No, the cleaning, and in my case, because I have a steam cleaner, I'm very happy to use it, because every time I use it, I find other stuff to steam clean. And it wasn't so cold today, and it is cold. Well, I have steam in a steam cleaner, and it's just sitting there. I go out and do the wheels of the car, get the brake dust off the wheels or something. Just use up the steam instead of just releasing the pressure. But first thing with any part, any painting, any restoration is you got to get the part degreased, cleaned, and no matter how you do it, and I'm sure body shops have different ways of doing it, and they have different chemicals and whatever, but this is a kind of inert way that works for me. It doesn't really stink the house up. Whenever I use any harsh chemicals, Karen has allergies to the various things, and we have problems, so I try to do this with as few fumes in the house as possible, especially this time of year. I don't want the furnace kicking on and it goes all over the house. But so here's step one. I've got the heavy grit off. Now the next thing is, and this is just simple green, full strength by the way, I'm going to let this part sit with the simple green on it while I do the next part. Now I can just put that away. That'll sit. It's going to tend to just degrease it. I'll go get another part and get that one degreased. So I can do about 2 at the same time. But I still have 11 to do. But the idea to be efficient is I want to get all of them degreased and all of them steam cleaned before I ever touch them with sandpaper. What a nice handy thing this was to have this, to be able to see some of the trim before we actually paint it. But again, here's the whole trick with everything. I'm going to wipe these down and then let them sit with the, it's just ordinary simple green. And the objective is, before I even steam clean them, I want to get as much of the loose grease off as I can. And for all purposes, all the silicone and wax, and these parts have a lot of wax on them. Now the whole idea of everything is we don't want to get And on a part like the fender, I want to get inside. The hope is that once I get the parts at least degreased and at least get all of this off. See, why do you have to clean in here? Because what's happening while you're working on it, you're touching it with your hands. So to have the whole part really nice and clean before you even start, such a big help to have it all as clean as you can make it, no matter how you make it. Now, if you had I don't know, put them in a dishwasher, I guess. I don't know. Luciano puts Kawasaki engine parts in a dishwasher. Karen frowns upon that stuff. Ay, ay, ay. So the idea, of course, is never to sand something that has wax on it, because you drive that down at a microscopic level to where you can almost never get it off then. And that must be Turbo Steve. And there's no secret. Getting parts clean, there's a lot of ways to do it. Now, there was a time when I used to have a way of sandblasting these. There was a place that had and usually a place to look for sandblasting where they make tombstones and monuments. And I could bring them the metal parts, and boy, was that convenient, but they went out of business. I guess I wasn't sandblasting enough. Now, I remember many times having the Jot learning here, and the Jot was picking up the skill of painting. Glenn picked it up, various other people, and the whole idea of everything is it's very hard to convince them. It's easy to convince people to buff out paint. It's hard to convince them to spend an hour, maybe 2 hours, to get all the wax and grease off. And the way to convince a person to do that, and you only have to do it once, is you get done with all the painting and all the sanding, and you buff out the part, and you go out you put it out in the sun, and all of a sudden right there, you see a bubble or something, or a crack. And after that, they'll be religious about prepping the part. But you only have to do it once. And I go to all these local car shows I like to go to. I like to look at them. Several of my friends have custom cars. And there's some beautiful, beautiful cars. But when I look at the edge, they never radius the edge enough, and the paint will crack right at the edge. And it's a heartbreaker, because now the only way to fix that, the only realistic way to fix it, is to go right back to where I am today. And it's just easier to spend that hour right now. And that phone call was Turbo Steve. He's on his way. He's back from California, probably with a lot of good stories. I know he goes to see a couple of his friends out there that have custom everything. If I was in California, I'd be a custom guy too, but I kind of like what I'm doing. But now, before I'm done here, I'll take each part individually. And I'm going to let it sit while Turbo Steve is here even. Just let him sit on an old towel. At the end, this towel will be goopy. Right into the laundry. Now this little part here, believe it or not, I know is going to be annoying, because what I want to do, I don't want to get so much paint built up in those numbers. I want to be able to see, so I'm going to I may not even prime this part. I'll just take a chance, because these can come right off and be redone in an instant. But see, here's what I don't want to do. I want to show this up close. I'll steam clean in those letters. I don't want to bake so much of a paint buildup that I have radiuses in there. Yeah, that's gonna be a little challenging, getting that the way I want it. And I got to get a little toothbrush or something in there and get some of the goop out. I see this wax, because when you wax this, you never get in there and get the wax out. So here's a great little tip. You have a little part like this, and we'll let it sit like that. Because after this, I do brush my teeth, by the way, and I still have all my teeth. Well, most of my teeth. Miles had an issue, my grandson had an issue when he had his first issue. He's losing his teeth and getting new teeth and everything. And I showed him mine. I says, your teeth are all teeth color, and mine are silver and gold and whatever the hell else they made, Bondo or whatever's in there. He said, okay, I'll go to the dentist. If you don't, you're going to look like me when you grow up. Yeah, it's going to be a little challenging getting down in there. I can see that already. But I will. See, that's what I said. Every part's got to be dealt with just a little bit differently. I think with this part, I'm just going to paint it black. Now, here's something that Kawasaki did that I never can understand for my whole life. They painted the gas tank, and certain parts have this little sparkly effect in it. But they didn't do that to the seat. And so if I wipe this, there's no sparkles. I never even noticed until recently that there's parts on this bike that like came from two different spray cans. So that was one of the reasons when we get done, everything will be Bentley black. See, now just imagine you put all of this time and effort and polishing and sanding, and you're all set and you're all ready to put the whole bike back together, and boop. Oh boy, these parts are drying up while I'm cleaning. I'm looking at them because we're right under a heating vent here. I'm sure that giving them a couple extra days to dry before I buff them, they'll be beautiful. Now this is one part that needs, where I had the camera mount, I want to fix it. But as long as I'm going to have the steam cleaner fired up, and usually, again, once I use the steam cleaner, I run over to the bathroom in the cellar and do the tiles and the mirrors and whatever. So, such a handy tool, so handy. And it's really good for this. It really gets, I mean, what's happened since we've had the steam cleaner, and we do take our time at this step. This is the day, I call it the day of prep, that a lot of people skip. It's not a good investment, believe me. So this one's going to be dealt with separately. But again, I'll just leave that while having a little conversation with Turbo Steve. This stuff will all be drying. Once I hit that with steam and hot water, these will be perfect. Now this part, this fender part, this is the part that was hard to get off. That one frozen bolt, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to replace the hardware, or if I can't get new parts, they'll be available. Partzilla is so good about finding these old parts, and I have no idea what Kawasaki was thinking, because I don't know. Now when I was, I'll be honest about this, when I was competing in the world of model airplanes, we competed with Japanese people all the time at our national championships, and they were really nice people, Kazminato and his crew, and I always considered them, I've actually had some of them to my house, Kazminato included, and I always considered their artistic ability to be one of their strengths. But whoever Kawasaki, maybe Kawasaki hired a guy like me. Who knows? Maybe they got him at a bargain in the draft, a draft choice. Anyway, and my little thing on the fender here, we've decided not to do this, that this would be overkill, and that's why having these patterns is so convenient. Such a good trick. Boy, that was worth its weight. When you don't know and what color you're going to do it, the combination of having John Pothier with his computer skills and some sheets of paper, what a difference. Then in the old days, even the model airplanes, we used to make drawings and sketches, and oh my God. But if you only knew how much crap was coming off these parts. But when I'm done with them, they'll be clean, because I have paid the price for not putting enough time into prep, and I know it's not pleasant when that first bubble appears. So now, just because I'm going to be spending some time with Turbo Steve, I don't know how long he has available, but I'll put one, just let this evaporate. This stuff just goes into every, and since I'm going to steam clean the mirror, I don't even care about the mirror. And when Steve leaves, I'll fire up the steam cleaner. And I've done everything I can to get that first level of primer to stick. This is a trusty Harbor Freight, under $100 steam cleaner that we never seem to run out of uses for. Boy, that is so handy cleaning stuff. Now, just to mention something while the steam cleaner is warming up, there's several attachments and brushes. One has a copper little feed on it. That's good if you're really scratching through some, like if you were doing a chain guard or something, or some part that really was loaded up. But for these delicate parts, this little bristle brush seems to get in it. It's like a toothbrush consistency, seems to get in all the little cracks and crevices too. Now, one thing I found out this thing is really, really good for. There were times, and it's maybe 2 years ago, I was riding right after they salted the roads one day with this bike, and I remember coming home and I had a white motorcycle, and I said, oh my God, I better get this steam cleaned right away. And this took it right down, that the salt just melted right off of it, even around the chain and everything. And now I don't ride that much. Once they salt the roads, I paint. You want to be careful not to get the steam on your hands. Or if you have a cup of coffee, you can warm up the coffee. Now, any place there's a little groove, I can get that brush right down in there. There's a ridge on this part right here. And in those inner valleys, that's where the paint's gonna, oh, look who's coming in. Uh-oh, watch out, you're on camera, no windy joke. If you're cold, I can warm you up with a little steam. Turbo Steve sneaking in, ahead of schedule. We can put him to work today. He works very inexpensively.
What do we want to do? I don't know. Looks great. Looks great. I'm gonna take a little bit of the red paint and just touch that up.
You could, yeah. I was going to say if you want to try that. I don't think it's going to work the way you think it is.
No, but it'll be better than a white spot there.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be better than nothing. But there's no real issues on it.
No.
You don't have a single fish eye, which is unusual for. Whenever we work on your stuff, it seems like there's a lot of fish eyes. No, it looks pretty good. Just
you never get rid of that fly.
rubbing compound. No, don't. Yeah, okay. Just rub it with rubbing compound.
Don't do this.
Yeah, well, you did it already. Should have gone for a match. Look at the shoes he wears. He's got to have shoes that match his bike.
Look, yeah.
Valentino Rossi shirt. Look, I got a Valentino Rossi shirt.
There are only 3 colors in the world.
Red, red, and red.
Red, black, and white. Here, so I guess I have to cut that or something. And I just want to.
Well, I'll give you the can of paint to touch it up with. You have a little tiny brush?
Yeah, of course I got a little.
I love watching a professional. I should have got Karen down here to do this. Okay, yeah, you got it.
Look at that.
Well, look at this guy. What a professional.
And it disappeared.
Wow, if I ever wreck a car, I'll have you come over and fix it.
And what I'm going to need now, I got a blade. It's like this.
A brand new blade, yeah. Let's get
a brand new Harbor.
Not a Harbor Freight. There we go. Here goes a big chunk out of the paint. I think the answer would have been just use water slide decals and you'd be all set.
We tried that.
You'd be at the show already.
And
you'd be collecting that check for 10 grand.
Oh, I'm not in any competition. But
well, you paint everything red and you don't like blood.
No, isn't that ironic?
A vampire. Luciano's puppy bit him. How appropriate is that? He thought his hand was a pepperoni thing. I said, you got to feed the puppy, you know. You won't give him the real good pepperoni and cheese like he eats.
He's got to take out this bug. I don't know if you...
Okay, yeah, so the deal is I mixed up a little bit of clear. He already touched up the red. We let it dry. We put a drop of red over this. There's a bug on that side of it. Did it go through to the red? No, you don't have to do anything over it. Just buff it out. And this clear, now, when he takes it home, he could take the brush and put a coat on, maybe an hour apart, because that clear will harden up in a jar in 2 or 3 hours. So you want to do it like soon as you get home.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to come back here. And he's got a brand new pad for his buffer and some of the real good compound, the 4CR compound. So I'm already cashing that check, Steve. Do I get 5 grand or 4 grand? And you get 60 or I get 40?
Competition.
They ought to ask me to judge. I'm probably the only guy that knows where all these bugs are. And there we are, another satisfied prize-winning customer bites the dust. So Steve's on his way to the JAVITS show. He's ready to go. And we're ready to go back to working on our... Oh my God, this is going to be a good painting day if I can get my act together, but I seldom get my act together. Look at the sun. Actually, it's actually a riding day if you want to ride at 28 degrees. All right, Turbo Steve is another satisfied customer. He's going to the show at JAVITS. Hope we get some pictures of him. He enjoys that. I enjoy steam cleaning bathrooms. If I only were true. Now there's one other trick that I wanted to show. That we're not going to put a whole hour of steam cleaning on here. This will probably be quite a while. If you take, I like to take a clean paper towel when I'm getting to the very end of any part. I want to put some steam on it. The steam, what it does, it heats everything up. The soap loosens it and the heat. Now, even though you think the part is perfectly clean, you can take a nice clean paper towel right at the very end, get it as wiped down as possible so that you don't contaminate the part. We'll be ready to do some sanding. Now some of these parts are going to require, and what it looks like happened, it looks like the reason they don't have the sparkles in some of the parts is because they're plastic. And what happened, they molded them. They didn't even paint these parts. There's no paint on them. I didn't see any paint anyway. But that's fine. But then the gas tank has sparkles in it. So, I don't know. I'm kind of lost in space with that. But anyway. Or maybe they painted it some secret way that, well, I don't know. It's all beside the point. The point is I want to get these really clean before I hit them with sandpaper. So to get the rest of them, and I'll even go over this one again because this is one you're going to see this part. If I get a bubble in the paint on this, I'll really be embarrassed. And again, anytime you have little cracks and crevices, you get in there with that brush. It's like a little toothbrush on the end. Any place. Now, in I don't know about other parts of the country, but in Jersey they're trying to ban vaping. Hope they don't ban steam cleaning. Put all the parts steam clean. I'll just use up the extra steam on my sink and my bathroom. So while I'm cleaning parts, the lovely Mrs. Ertnowski is making, what are we making, chili today? Chili. I know Luciano will love that. 8 pounds of meat. I love it. Now Karen just advised me that we're going to have a short day today because we're having company tonight. My grandson's going to be sleeping over, so I'm going to put the push on and try to get some of these parts painted today. I'm going to start with 600 Indasa sandpaper. Now some of the parts are going to be different. I'm going to do each one individually and each one will be a little bit different. Chance you're going to have a delamination issue. This may be a 1% chance. So this little part of doing it and block sanding it, if there is any imperfections in this, of course they'll be better. Now the other part of this that's critical is getting the edges radiused because we're going to be painting this. I don't want to have this paint. If there's a razor sharp edge there, the odds are real good that's where the paint will start to crack. So every time we sand this, we're going to be doing this to the complete edge. I want that whole edge, whether it's visible or invisible, I want that whole edge to be radiused. And I'll do that every time I sand the part, right up until the final 2000 grit and buffing. Now after a quick wipe with prep wool, make sure we don't have any silicone, any grease on this. I'm tack ragging it down. I masked this off because I don't want to have paint build up. All these little notches, and where that piece snaps on, I'm going to mask off the other side so that we don't lose the fit of those pieces. And once this is tack ragged down, we'll be ready for a coat of sealer primer. Now what's important for all these parts is that we have primer, sealer. And I have Duplicolor and I have Rust-Oleum, but it's got to have that word sealer in. So 2 coats of primer sealer, and it's just above freezing. We're right at the point where if it was any colder, we'd probably wait till it got warmer to paint. But 2 coats of that primer, we'll put that up by a heating vent to dry and start working on another part, and you never know how many we're going to get done. Now because it's so cold and that heat is on, that paint should cook up in about 15-20 minutes. And as I get the parts that I can get done here, again, we have to make some adjustments to the day because of Miles staying over tonight. But that heat, when the heat is on, those parts cook up in about 15 minutes. So here's the test that I'm looking for. Because I don't know if these parts have paint on them, and I don't think they do. I think they're molded with that finish already on them. But I can't tell for sure, of course. And you sure can't ask anybody. The people that know that aren't going to tell you. So the 600 grit puts a nice tooth in, and what it should be enough of a tooth that when a second coat of primer lays down, I'll put 2 very thin coats, just dust it on, no runs, no globs. I'm not going to even sand that. I'm just going to paint the black right over the top of it. And that should give me a really good base for the finish. And then tomorrow or the next session, I'll be ready to tape off the black trim. But all of these things, every one of those parts is going to be a little different. Now, the test is, you could use even 400 sandpaper if you were really looking to put a good tooth in. But if you see those sanding scratches in the primer, the choices are give it one more thin coat of primer or use a finer grade of paper. In this case, the 600 looks like it's a good choice, but if I saw sanding scratches coming through, I'd go to 1,000. And with that heat kicking on, that primer is just drying up beautifully. Now it looks like we're going to get some more of these parts done today. I had no idea. When you have a short day, you never really know. And there's a lot more parts to do, but we'll just chip away at them one by one and see how many we can get done. But having them up by the heating vent, that'll mean tomorrow we can be shooting black on everything. That'll be great. Now the front part of the fender looks like it's made out of the same material, so I'm going to again use the 600. Let it get a good tooth. Try to get outside and get some primer on this. And you never know. A day like today, it starts out one way. We always have something that we didn't expect happen. Both Karen and I both. And so we always try to do work efficiently, maximize the use of the time we have. I'm not sure there's anything else you can do when you have a family. There's not a lot of choices. So, but we do have a good day for painting. Even though it's freezing cold, the sun helps you get a good. We'll get these parts. We'll get a few more of them primed before the day is over. And because these parts are the same, look like they're made out of the same material as a seat, I assume the finishing will be pretty much the same. Just assuming Scott will have, when he does his Ninja, he's been watching all the videos and corresponding with me. I assume his Ninja is not going to be a whole lot different than this one. Kawasaki doesn't really change that much from year to year. Once they start making a bike, they want to pay for the tooling, pay for those flat black parts. Anyway, we are really taking advantage of a good day here. I didn't think this was going to go this quickly. On anything that's got an edge or a radius, I want to get up there around the radius. I'll get 2 light coats on this, about 10 minutes apart, and we'll be up by the heating vent. Now another thing I do, I put it up on its dumpster so it's closer to the heating vent, but I don't want the parts to be so close. I've had a problem if I put them any closer than that. I like to leave them about a foot away from the heating vent. Seems to be about the right amount. And this will help dry them. There's no substitute for heat when you're drying paint. Now, I don't want to force dry them. I know people do that and they put them in front of heat lamps and stuff, but this system works for me, and I always let that stuff dry overnight. Now the rear fender, I'm not so sure. I'm going to give this a try, sand it all with 600, radius off all the edges. I still have to fix the blind nuts, but Turbo Steve said he had a bunch of those blind nuts. He was going to supply me with brand new ones, so I'm not even going to worry about it. It's not going to change anything. Get this all roughed in. If I go to paint this, and I have tried to do this in the past, paint over this, it's got kind of a little pebbly texture. You wind up needing 5 coats of primer, and that's unnecessary. It just makes the paint thicker than it has to be. And I was thinking, because Scott is painting his Ninja, assuming he is, or doesn't really matter. These bikes are not all that difficult. No, they're not all that different either. But anyway, we're really taking advantage of a beautiful day here. And this is a little part that you see, so I want to make sure all the edges are radius, most important thing. Get this all flat sanded. get out there. It's already starting to get dark. I think it's dark 4:30 here. It's crazy. Totally crazy. It's like I live in Alaska. Oh, that heat, as that heat is coming out of that heating vent, it warms. It's like a good cup of coffee. It's unbelievable. That paint is drying up beautifully today. We should have a banner day tomorrow. Now these parts have already been painted, but I'm going to use the same. And I guess the 600 paper is working so good. I'm just gonna go with the 600 on the whole part. I was wondering if some of these were going to be a problem. See, this one is all scuffed up, and some of these there's some chips here, so I'm going to have to do a little bit extra work on these. But it looks like we're going to get a lot more done than I thought we would. But that's the adventure of when you do this. If you know where you're going, it's not an adventure. Now the house smells so good. I know Karen's got that chili on the stove up there. Ooh, hard to work when you have that smell in the house. Now we were busy the whole day, and it looks like we're going to go right to the end of the day here, which is really fine. I'll take every day I can get. Now we took advantage of the fact today there was not much, almost none now. The wind blowing just makes it a lot easier, a lot more fun. Not sure fun is the right word, but we did get the job done. Now I know people don't know that I'm a gourmet cook. I try not to brag about my gourmet cooking, but of course what I do is I let Karen do all the cooking and I take credit for it. This is, what is this, 8 pounds of chili? 8 pounds of meat.
It's 14 pounds of meat.
Oh my God.
It's chili for the winter.
No wonder I'm gaining weight. This is, if you only knew how much stuff we have here. And we're still getting work done in the shop. Well, the chili is in the oven, and boy, I'm telling you, if you only could smell how this house smells when she's making chili. And that's our whole winter's amount of chili there. Anyway, wow, I got a lot more done than I thought I would. I don't want to rush it, of course, and it's already dark outside, so that kind of puts the end on that. But everything's up on a heating vent, and that heat is cooking along. Now, tomorrow it's supposed to snow. Now, here's the whole beauty of, if it snows tomorrow, we don't have to paint at all. We have two major things to buff. If it doesn't snow, I'll get those two ready, primed. And if it doesn't snow, I'll get these in black, so that leapfrogging thing is really working to our benefit. Every day is an adventure. Every day is just a little bit different. Some like today, they get a little busy. We work right to the end of the day, and I really am not a cook. Really, Karen takes care of everything. But anyway, the day had to end when it ends because we are going to have an overnight guest stay tonight. My grandson's staying over, and whenever he does, we play Monopoly, or we set the house on fire, and most of the time he wants to run my model railroad this time of year. And I can't blame him. I enjoy doing it too. Anyway, I'll put some footage of that at the end of the day if we get some footage tonight. Who knows? And every once in a while, we have to call the fire department. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. If it's Christmas time, it must be time to run the trains. Who's the best engineer here? Who is? Who's the best engineer?
But you keep...
Don't let him go over 60. 60 is the maximum speed on this railroad. You got 60 there?
No, 32.
All right, go to 40. Kick in the turbochargers. These diesels have Turbo Steve turbochargers. Here he comes, Miles.
60.
Here he comes. Okay, 60's maximum. Here he comes. It's Christmas time in the Arnowski house.
I'm going to go more than 60.
Okay, go to 70. We have a radar detector. We don't care. Let's do a track day. Go to 70.
Hurry on.
All right. Here he comes.
80.
Whoa!
80.
No, not 80. 80's, the police will get you. They have radar on this railroad.
75.
75. Whoa! Whoa, they're going to get you, Miles. Whoa! Oh, you're in big trouble, baby. Whoa! Take it to 80. I don't see any police on the railroad. Go right to 80. Make sure you got track tires on that. None of those hard tires. You're at 80 now. Don't go up to 90. You know what happens when the state police get you over 90. You're in big trouble then, boy. Big trouble. You have to have Grandpa Windy bail you out. What is this fan? What do you want, a track day? You got to join AMAR if you want to do a track day. There you go. This is Christmas time, a great time of year in the Artnowski house. Yeah, and all we have to do is put the tree up yet. Coming soon, the day we put the tree up. Here he comes! Here he comes!